Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. And boy, do I have a good one for you today. And I think it's important because I've gotten calls from individuals who have complained about their own attorneys. They're already represented, but then they complain that they're trying to get a consultation with me because their own attorney will not answer their questions or won't communicate with them. And so they're unsure of what's going on in their process, they're anxious, and they're not sure how to proceed in their case. In some cases, they've gotten straight up denials after the attorney has made a mistake on their matter. And in some cases, some people don't have file documents and they never started with an attorney to begin with. And so I think this is a really good topic for you to understand things that you should look out for when choosing an attorney, and then maybe to even help you to understand why an attorney is necessary. The very fact that you're tuning into this live to get information from me about the immigration process and about getting permanent residence is an indication that you already understand the value of the information I'm providing as a qualified attorney. But I want to dig into this topic a little bit more. In the meantime, though, feel free to put your questions in. It can be anything that's immigration related. And as soon as I'm finished with what I have to say, then I'll turn to your questions. But I wanted to start with a question to you, and you can put your answers in the comments. And it would be, why wouldn't you? What makes you hesitant about hiring an immigration attorney? Go ahead, put that in the comments, and then I want to see what your perspective is. But usually, I will hear these when it comes to, well, why didn't you hire an attorney, an immigration attorney? This is for situations where you're going through the process by yourself. Sometimes another disturbing trend I find is individuals will go to these paralegals, these notarios who put up a storefront and say they would like to go ahead and use their services to apply for, an immigration benefit. The thing about this is that they mistake the notarios, their qualifications for that. They think it's similar to that of an attorney's, and the notario ends up messing up their case. So they will end up submitting fraudulent documents. Sometimes they submit false information on behalf of the individual, and it puts them in more problems. Sometimes they don't spot legal issues, and then those legal issues come up later on, when sometimes at the interview, and by that time it's really late, and it means that the case is now officially very complicated. So that's another thing, is not hiring an attorney at all, or going to one of those storefront people that say they do everything under the sun. They file taxes, they fill out estate planning documents, they do immigration. Beware, because these are not attorneys. I did have an individual that came to me, and she kept on referring to this person as an attorney, because in her head she kept thinking this was an attorney. And I had to correct her, because she kept talking about this. This person referred to themselves as a paralegal, but that's not an attorney. A paralegal is not an attorney. A notario or a notary is not an attorney, and they're not licensed in any way to give you legal advice or represent you in any way in the immigration process. So don't put your faith in them, especially when you want to make sure that you have a good process. But one thing I'll hear is, well, It's easy. It's just paperwork. I can just fill it out. So that's one, and that's another reason why a lot of people just go to these notaries or notarios or paralegals to do it, because they just think this is paperwork. It has nothing to do with a law or legal advice. They just need this paperwork filled out. Um, Another is it's expensive. And so you try to cut costs by taking the cheapest options. And the cheapest options may be an attorney who's not necessarily qualified. So you may hire an attorney, but they may not be qualified in the area of immigration, or to hire someone who says they dabble in immigration, but they really are not qualified to do it. Thinking you know enough already. You know enough. Why do you need an attorney? And then the other is you really don't want to face the issue. You know that you have questions. You know that there are potential problems in your matter, but you don't want to to open up to an attorney because you may feel like this puts you more at risk. So if you have, say, a criminal record, or you're here without status, you may think speaking to an attorney could be to your detriment. It could end up costing you in some way. But keep in mind that if you go to a notary or if you go to a notary or a paralegal, they are in no way obligated to keep your information confidential. But as an attorney, I am obligated. It's a part of my professional responsibility to keep what you say completely confidential. So that's also important to know, is that the attorney is going to have your back, but the paralegal can go to Tom, Dick, and Harry if they want to. They can go ahead and call immigration and tell them everything you spilled your guts to them about, and there's no protection there. If you came to me, I'm so obligated to keep your information confidential that if the authorities came to me, I could not disclose that information to them because it is my professional duty to keep it confidential. So keep that one in mind. So those are some of the reasons. And then I'm going to look at some of the reasons that I'm hearing from you. So let me just scroll through, and then I'll go back to your questions when I'm finished with this. So I'm afraid because of bad experiences from other relatives and friends that they experience. So I definitely understand what you're saying here, because yes, there are attorneys out there that are not necessarily experienced. They are not there. And actually, I've been hired by clients who've had bad experiences with previous attorneys. So I totally understand. And this is why a part of this is to talk about what you should look out for to find a good attorney, and to make sure that you have a better experience, because that's a valid concern for sure, and I've seen that happen too. So um, I know. All right, that's a good one. So let's see some more. I think I saw the inability to pay. That's definitely a valid concern as well. And it can be intimidating, right? Because we know that attorneys are expensive. However, what I would say is it's an investment and it's worth it. And let me tell you why. And this is where you can explore different attorneys, what they have to offer, and determine whether the particular attorney is worth the investment, and work towards that investment, because this is your future. And your future is not supposed you're not supposed to put a price tag on it. I understand though that you have to have that money in hand, right? But the first thing you have to do is explore your options first, because you may be intimidated. You may think you can't afford it, but it turns out that what your perceptions of the expense is not what it is. So that's what consultations are there for. It's there to interview the attorney to determine what's the cost, what are you eligible for, how can the attorney assist you. So I see one here. I almost didn't use an attorney because one of them I spoke was very biased on my country of origin. Yes. So, unfortunately, attorneys are human beings and they do have biases. And so you should look out for that because you will have attorneys who are judging the very immigrants that they are representing. Yes, I have seen that myself. And so if you see an attorney who is patronizing, if they are criticizing you as an immigrant or what you've been through as an immigrant, then yeah, I wouldn't choose them either. So so Cadet says, so true, just pay the money and go the right way. I can't agree more. It's hard to let go of that money, but in the long run, what ends up happening is it turns out to be even more expensive because of mistakes along the way. And I have a story about what one of my clients endured that I think I want to share with you so you can understand why in the end it is worth it to make that investment, and cost shouldn't be your only reason for not hiring an attorney, and you should not be trying to find shortcuts. You should be trying to do it the right way. Can you change attorney once they start the process? Great question. I'm going to answer this because I think it's very relevant now, but other questions I'll address later. It is your right to hire and fire an attorney, and if something isn't working out with the attorney, it is your right to leave that relationship and find another attorney under the rules of professional responsibility. I, as an attorney, I cannot solicit individual prospective clients to come and be represented by me when they're in the same in the same area that they're being represented in. I can't do that. But you, as the client, you are always able to leave that relationship and make good decisions, because remember, again, this is your future, and if the attorney isn't doing something correctly and you feel like now you're at risk, it's your right to walk away and make sure that you find a better option. um, Great input. I appreciate all of this. Hi there, Rita, it's nice to see you. um, all right. So, those are all valid reasons, but you should really think about how much it's worth it to get an attorney on your matter. Don't make assumptions that this is easy, because the immigration law is complex. As you can see, every day I come on here and I don't never grow tired of the kinds of topics that I have to talk about. And sometimes I have to really think about how am I going to word these topics to you in a way that you will understand it, because it's something that seems so complex, easy seems, can just go into all sorts of directions, down all different pathways, just depending on your particular circumstances. So, you know, make sure that you're covered first. And the way you do that is start with a consultation, right? If you've never worked with an attorney, I'll let you know how this process works. So, with my practice, I make it very easy for clients to get in touch with me and to schedule an appointment first. And the appointment is really your opportunity to dig in to me, to be able to interview me. And it's my opportunity to also interview you, to see if my number one priority is to see if you qualify for whatever is happening in regards to your immigration matter, whether you're ready to apply, whether you're trying to find out whether you can apply, whether you're trying to fix your status. I really dig into your facts, and I try to find every feasible option for you. And so the way to do that is to start with a consultation, because The reason is I don't ever want to just give you a cost or give you a price without first vetting what you qualify for and giving you the accurate price range based on the effort that I and my team will have to make to be able to make your immigration journey possible. And so we start with that consultation. And if you look at the link and the description of this video, as soon as I'm complete with the video, you can go to the description and you'll see the link. You can go there. You can go to the website and call the number, or you can simply click on the link to schedule your own appointment, right? It's that part of it. We have teams here not to intimidate you, not to take your information and use it in any way. The minute you contact the office and any attorney's office, it's supposed to be confidential. Even when we talk about confidentiality, it's so serious that if someone ever tries to call to say, did John Doe call your office? We cannot confirm that, and we cannot disclose that you ever did a consultation. That is the level of the level of commitment we have as attorneys to confidentiality, and that's what I practice as an attorney. So don't feel intimidated by this process. Go ahead and know that when you're calling my office, you will be safe and you will be helped. You will not face judgment. You will not, be intimidated in any way. Staff is here to help you. So you will be in touch with the scheduling coordinators who will assist you. And, this is pretty much similar with other attorneys. So if you're looking around and you're looking for an attorney, then it's similar where you're going to have someone on the forefront assisting you to get your appointment and get started with your appointment. If it's difficult, I would say this, and this is the number one tip I have here regarding an attorney, is if it's very difficult to get in touch with the attorney's office to start with, I would take that as a red flag. For me, I have the website, I have the phone number, I have the link to schedule your own appointment. So multiple ways to get in touch. But if you are constantly calling the office and you're trying to get a call back from the attorney, or you're trying to get someone to call you back to schedule the appointment, I would say that's the first red flag. It doesn't necessarily mean the attorney is bad yet, but I would say that if you're having a hard time, maybe it's time to look somewhere else for another attorney who is easy to contact, where staff is always available to assist the client when needed. So once you schedule the appointment and we're in the meeting, so I am a U.S. immigration attorney, and so I practice in all 50 states and around the globe. I represent clients right now in many of the continents of the globe, as well as in the United States. So I'm not limited. So no matter where you are, I can represent you in your immigration matter. And this is why I also do not only in-person appointments, but phone and video. So I'm flexible in the way that clients can get in touch with me, and my prospective clients as well as my clients. So, and we really work based on the convenience of the client, what works for them in regards to communication. So once you've gotten to the point now where you and the attorney, you've gotten to the consultation, it's time to ask those very important questions, right? It's time to ask about the attorney's experience. Now, you do have attorneys, not because the person is an attorney means that they are going to be good at what you're looking for them to do. So if you have an immigration matter, and then you see that they do primarily immigration, I mean, not immigration, personal injury, and then you'll see like a little side thing like they're doing immigration on the side, then you really have to question whether the attorney is in the position to be able to represent you and give you the attention you need in your matter, and whether they're experienced enough to represent you through the process. You're investing in yourself and your future. You don't want to be investing in an attorney that is just going to deliver part of the way, or they're going to give you 50% because maybe that's the portion of their practice, or they're going to give you 20% because most of the time they're doing 80% personal injury. So the type of attorney matters. Don't go to an attorney who you see they're doing one type of law, and there's this misconception that, okay, any attorney can help. But remember, there are different types of attorneys in different practice areas. And most attorneys, they're going to have maybe some attorneys have multiple practice areas, but whatever you're looking for, it's going to be the focus of their practice. So even if they have two practice areas, it's going to be immigration is going to be at least one of the focuses, right? So make sure that they're experienced, and then again, remember, there are immigration attorneys that they may focus on particular types of immigration, because immigration, it may be humanitarian. So for me, I focus on particular areas. So I focus on family immigration, humanitarian, and then also do the national interest waiver and business visas. So some attorneys, they only focus on one area. They may focus on business immigration, they may focus on family immigration, they may focus primarily on deportation defense. So ask what area in immigration do they focus on, to make sure that for example, if you're doing family immigration, and then the attorney says they also focus on family immigration, then you're on the same page there. But if you have an attorney that focuses primarily on deportation defense, for example, but they don't necessarily do other areas, then you want to question whether they're going to be right. So not only do you have to look at the general practice of immigration, but what areas, because there are so many different areas of immigration law, that you have to focus on what are they focusing on in immigration as an attorney. You even have some attorneys that focus on employer compliance, like I-9 compliance, where the interest of the employer is to make sure that they're complying with immigration law in regards to their employees. So, there are different areas that you have to just make sure you pay attention to. Another very big complaint that I see is communication. So you want to make sure you know ahead of time what to expect in regards to communication with your attorney. Different attorneys have different policies on how they communicate with their clients and how they manage that schedule. And there are team members available in the law firm, in some law firms, to be able to manage the communication. But one thing I want you to look out for is the first thing, the mistake I find is the individual will maybe the attorney is cheap, for example. Say the attorney just throws out a really good price, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's great, this is an attorney, the price is right, I'm just gonna go ahead and move forward with it. But then afterwards, you realize what the catch was. Well, the catch was you could pay this cheap price, and maybe the cost of that to pay that price was just to file your papers. It wasn't to represent you if something came up. It wasn't to correspond with the USCIS. It wasn't to continually represent you. It wasn't to take your calls to answer any more questions. It wasn't to help you with any potential complications. It didn't include preparing you for the interview. It didn't include attending the interview. In some cases, some attorneys do attend the interview. I do, in some cases, fly around the country to assist my clients. And so if you have a good price, the next thing you have to be asking is, what's the catch? You know, what's included in the services? The way that you're going to find this out is one, to ask the attorney directly, and then also to review the retainer agreement. Most attorneys are going to provide you with a retainer agreement, or at least I know I do, and many attorneys do. The retainer agreement is the agreement that I have with my clients that say, these are the terms, these are included in the representation, this is the cost, these are the rules that you should follow in regards to representation. And you can, you know, look there to see what's included, what are the boundaries set in regards to communication. Is continuous communication still included in the retainer, or are you just paying for them to fill out documents and then send it in? So know what's included. And in some cases, some individuals, they just want the attorney to review it, and they're okay with not having a continuous representation with the attorney. But some people will say, I paid the attorney this money and now I can't call the attorney and ask the attorney anything. That's probably the reason why, because it wasn't included in the terms of the representation. So make sure you look at your retainer agreement to see what's included in your representation, because communication is going to be very important. And let me just give you a story, the story I wanted to tell you about regarding the mistake. I want you to see how this mistake of not even getting in touch with an attorney to start out your process can cause just a domino effect of devastation. In this case, there's a happy ending though, but I want to save you the pain of having to go through what my client went through. So at the time that I received the call from my client, she was already 3 years into what should have been about a year process, right? And the reason that that happened was because one, she thought it was simple. She thought that this is a family member that's sponsoring her. So, how hard could this be, right? And this was in regards to consular processing, which can definitely drag out for a long time if you don't understand the process. And most of my clients don't, because most of you will only go through this once. But what happened is, when it got to the point where first the family member filed a petition, they requested a request for evidence. They did not submit the right documents for the request for evidence, which at the time they were filing the petition, they could never have anticipated that they would have gotten a request for evidence, because they thought this was cut and dry. They're family members, they're proving they're family members. How could they deny this? Well, they got that request for evidence. And when that came in, they didn't respond properly and it was denied. So they had to go ahead. So that was 9 months that passed by, that where after 9 months, they got the denial. Then they had to refile again. So when they refile, that means they're starting the process all over again. They're paying the fees all over again. So now they're $535. They paid already, and now they're another 535 deep, right, in fees that they have to pay over again. This time they learn from the first mistake, but who wants to learn from a mistake by then having to do it all over again and increase their costs? Better to do it once than twice. And in this case, they're fortunate that that denial didn't lead to a further complication. But they went ahead, filed again. Filed again. This time it was approved. And then it went to the National Visa Center. And boy, oh boy, the National Visa Center can be a real pain, because the National Visa Center, it takes very long for them to get review documents. It takes about 2 to 3 months for them to review documents. So let me just backtrack here and tell you what the National Visa Center is. Once a petition, say a family member files a petition, and then it goes on to once it's approved, it goes on to the National Visa Center. The National Visa Center is I like to say they're the middle person between the client and then the embassy in the country where the immigrant relative, is going to go ahead and do their interview to get the immigrant visa slash, the permanent visa that's going to lead to permanent residence. The National Visa Center wants to first prep the documents, review the documents, collect additional fees. So at that point, they have to pay the 445 to pay the fees, the invoice, and this is for the affidavit of support and for the immigrant application. So you have to submit additional applications there, and you have to submit what's called the affidavit of support, which is a complex document in its own right. So at that point, they went ahead, did that, and then all hell broke loose right there because the documentation that she was submitting was not meeting the standards of the NVC. And as I mentioned before, they take 2 months just to look at it, 2 to 3 months to look at it to say yay or nay. Yes, we're going to accept this. No, we're not. And so she repeatedly kept on getting denials. So every denial was adding an additional 3 months. So 3 months, right, for them to reject it. Then she had to go correct it, thinking she was making the right corrections. Then she submitted it again, right? So if it took her maybe a week to get the corrections and then submitted it again, she had to wait another 2 to 3 months just to hear again that no, this is not right. They're not going to accept the document. And this kept on going and going and going until she got fed up. She was about 3 years in at that point of this back and forth, back and forth. And at that point, that's where I got the call, and I knew exactly what to do because I have been through this process. I can walk through it with my eyes closed. And so at that point, we were able to fix everything. She quickly got what's called documentarily qualified. And at the point that she became documentarily qualified, that means now they've accepted everything. They are now say they've accepted her documents, everything looks acceptable, and now they're going to schedule it. Then we had to wait for the interview. She got the interview, though, shortly thereafter, and managed to immigrate to the United States. But something that should have been a year to a year and a half turned into a 4-year process. So you don't want to have to end up in a situation like this where you're dealing with unnecessary delays because you don't understand the procedures involved. And so in addition to this was a lot of time. This involved 2 police certificates because they kept on expiring. It involved now an attorney fee and to fix the situation. And then the additional expenses to her relative who now had to keep, paying to support her in the country and to support this whole application process. Another thing is that sometimes if you go without an attorney and then it gets complicated, sometimes attorneys then don't want to accept your case because some attorneys, most qualified attorneys, are not going to take a case that is that they don't see themselves winning, or that they don't see worth pursuing. And if this becomes so messed up, the process, and so so much of a contorted process that the attorney sees that it may be unfixable, you may have even a hard time finding an attorney that will accept your money. You may at that point be begging for an attorney to take your money. So just keep that in mind, that an early investment could save you time and expenses in time, personal expenses. It could speed up the time that you have with your family or to come to the United States to achieve your goals. So, just heed my advice here and take those steps to ask the attorney what they, about their qualifications, and then look at what people are saying about them. For example, my clients they go on Google and they will talk about what I have done for them. And you can look at it to see, and you can get a feel for what the attorney has done, the experience of the attorney, the communication level of the attorney. For example, one of my Google reviews talks about how I and my staff really treated him as if he was a family member. And we really try to assist our clients on that personal level. We're client obsessed, we're a client centered firm. And so we want our clients to feel like feel that they are the focus, because they are. This is their future, and we're very much aware of that. So you can tell the culture of the law firm, you can tell how the attorney approaches situations, you can tell the challenging types of cases that the attorney takes on, and you can tell the attorney's experience by things like reviews. So I have reviews on my website, and I do have reviews on Google as well, where you can really read those, and you don't have to necessarily take it from me, but you can take it from those reviews, how I approach my clients' cases and how successful I have been in their cases. So I hope that this has been very helpful. I am going to go ahead and answer questions. So I see a number of questions here on YouTube. Thanks for your questions. And I see on Instagram. So I'm going to go through those questions now. So do you answer live questions? Absolutely, I do. Join me. Put your questions in right now here, and I will answer. Where's your location? So my office is located in Boca Raton, Florida. That's the central office. But remember, I represent clients in all 50 states and around the globe. So no matter where you are, basically the entire United States and the globe is my office, right? I just have that location where my clients, if you want to see me in person, and where all the documentation from USCIS come into. But my office is really the US and the globe. And if you follow me, sometimes you'll see my adventures around the country, helping clients all around the country. Which is one of the highlights of my practice, is I do love to travel around the country to meet my clients and to actually experience their successes and celebrate their successes in person. Because, when we get those good results, I get to celebrate with them. So I'm in Boca, but I do offer phone and video consultations for those of you who are not close by to me. I have a question. I had an employer who didn't pay me. She harassed me and my family, falsely called CPS on my niece and threatened us with ICE. Can you help? Absolutely. Go ahead and give us a call, because that is exactly what employers do when they're trafficking. So when the employer is trying to traffic or trafficking an employee, they will use intimidating tactics to try to keep you in the situation that you're in, as in keep you working for them. And if you leave, if they continue to stalk you and harass you, this is still considered a form of trafficking. So go ahead. We can talk more about it. So while I can never confirm on a live whether you qualify for an immigration benefit, this is certainly something that happens to many of my labor trafficking clients. And I would say at this point, it's worth it to explore your qualifications. Now, if you should qualify as a victim of trafficking, if you're under 21, not only can you qualify for immigration relief, but your parents can, and your siblings who are under 18 and unmarried can. If you're 21 and over, your spouse and your children, even if they're outside of the United States, can qualify to get status in the United States as well. So what they get is that they get a visa to enter the country. And then once they enter the country, at that point, you can also pursue permanent residence together. So definitely, you are facing these threats. The employer has no right, no matter your immigration status, an employer has no right to threaten you like this and to cause wreak havoc on your life like this. So just protect yourself, make sure you're safe, get in touch with me, and we can talk about what that situation entail and confirm qualification. I got the 360 approved. Can I lose VAWA protection and the 485 adjustment of status is denied? So yes, you can lose VAWA protection if you no longer qualify because maybe something happened in your background, like you got arrested or now you become deportable. That's where you could lose your VAWA protection. Now, let me just mention here, you can apply for permanent residence through VAWA. But one of the first steps is at the same time. So with my clients, at the same time they're applying for VAWA, we're applying for permanent residence. And then my clients get VAWA first, and that means you're protected. You now get an automatic work permit and social security number, or a renewed work permit, because even before then, you're able to get a work permit and travel document and social security number. But the VAWA protection then gives you a type of deferred action. After that, you then automatically, if you filed an adjustment of status application at the same time, you will be scheduled for an interview. But if those same things occur or happen at the interview, where now they're seeing things that make you inadmissible, or then it appears to affect your good moral character, it can definitely lead to a denial. But I would say make sure that you are. This is where representation really matters. When things like this come up, and or when you go to the adjustment of status interview, you want to make sure that you understand your rights. And for one, the questions about the abuse is not allowed at the interview. At that interview, they're just trying to determine whether you're qualified to adjust status, that you meet all the other boxes. But it's already decided that you've been through this mistreatment or abuse. And so that is not should not be the focus of the officer at the final interview for permanent residence. But yes, it is discretionary still, and you still have to make sure that you comply with the law, you meet all the requirements, and if something is up that you're concerned about, definitely schedule a consultation. All right. Oh, Vicente, thanks so much for answering that question. It's nice to see you, Joey. So yes, it's still $150 for up to an hour, and it's a detailed consultation where I really delve into your facts to determine how you can qualify. Um, all right. Let's see here. Hi there. It's nice to see you, Ricky Flossie. So I am looking forward to that consultation, and I'm really looking forward to assisting you because it sounds like you're going through a hard time. So I would love to help you with that. What's the processing time frame for a marriage green card in Florida? So, it's really dependent on the service center where it's processed first, and also on the contents of your application and what's going on. I find that applications that are incomplete or not done correctly, those go on forever, right? But, a good application, usually I will see it, I would say the shortest I've seen is 5 months, and then it can go to a little over a year and a half. But a year and a half is really pushing it, but it can go that long. Um, this is such a great topic. I appreciate that. I think so too, because I don't think I've ever talked about this, but it's important for you to know that as well. Wish I did report my employer for withholding pay, Vicente. So if this happened where your employer was withholding pay, it may qualify you for this T status, because that is also one of those red flags for labor trafficking. And no matter how long ago this happened, may still qualify for an immigration benefit. So if this happened 20 years ago, where this employer did this to you, it's worth us exploring what happened. Because with what happens with what I find is, with trafficking, when it comes on to the employer, they will use the pay as one of those coercive tactics. So they use the pay to keep you working. If they withhold your pay, they think you're going to continue working for them. So you can't leave. Or if they give you your pay little by little, that you find yourself in a more helpless situation. And so that's what could potentially make this trafficking, is that they're using this as a way to maintain control over you. So it's worth exploring whether this could be an option for you. Um, uh, can an EB3 visa get approved for expedite of interview? So absolutely. And the EB3 is employment based. There is a basis for this. So usually when we're dealing with a context like this, is where the employer has an urgency to get you to the United States to start working. And it usually means that the employer has to show that they're experiencing some sort of economic loss. This, I don't know what your situation is, and this is where it's important to have an attorney represent your interests. But that's what that could be a basis to approve an expedite for the interview. But it's really ultimately up to the embassy to determine whether they're going to grant it. And they tend to grant these sparingly, because things are so backed up right now that they tend not to just jump and grant every expedite request just because a request is made. What's a reasonable timeline for an application process for a family of 5 for the green card? So it's going to depend on what type of process you're going through. You have different processes involved. So if for example, you're looking at family based, it could range anywhere from a few months to years, maybe even a decade. For example, Mexico, it's 2 decades. If you're dealing with another type of permanent residence, for example, like an investor's type of EB5 visa, then you could be looking at anywhere from a year to 3 years, just depending on where are you? Are you in the United States? Are you doing adjustment of status? Or will you be waiting for an interview at the embassy in your country? So, it's going to depend. Uh, is it possible to get approved to legally work during marriage-based green card process? Absolutely, absolutely. That's one of the highlights of this type of application process, is that if you're in the United States, you can get approved for a work permit if you're going through the adjustment of status process. Now, if you're outside of the United States, it's unlikely you're going to be approved to work before you actually get the immigrant visa. But once you get the immigrant visa, which is usually towards the end of the process, you can come to the United States and get started with working as soon as you land and you are successfully processed at the airport. So do you know how long expedite requests take to get a decision? So I've seen them take a few days to a month for them to approve these kinds of requests or to get a decision. In some cases, when they're really overwhelmed, sometimes the denial is just no response. Sometimes you have to submit it again to actually get a response. But I've seen it within days. Usually too, sometimes what happens is you don't even get a response, you just get the results. So For example, you get your interview notice before you even get the approval. You'll maybe get notification of the interview. If it's a USCIS, sometimes you get the approved petition, and then okay, of course, it appears as if they approved, they expedite, and that's why now you have a decision. Do you have a standard fee that you charge for assisting with marriage immigration cases, or is this discussed during the consultation? So it's discussed during the consultation, because remember that one size doesn't fit all. And there are different situations in a marriage-based process. For example, you may have where the spouse has, there's something in their background or something in their immigration history that will require more effort or more time. And so this is where my fees are going to change or vary just depending on the type of marriage immigration process. My fee structure, though, is a flat fee, which tends to help clients with predictability. So and put them at ease that once they have hired me and we confirm representation, you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, am I gonna get a bill for every time I speak with the attorney? So just know that it's a flat fee structure, but the specific cost is going to be based on what is going on, what kind of case do you have, what are the facts involved, and what is going to be required to get you through the process successfully. And that's the reason why we start with a consultation, because a consultation is you have a lower fee, flat fee that you pay to get legal advice, and that's your time to interview me to really be sure that you qualify to qualify to move forward with benefits or relief. And then it's my opportunity to determine whether I can assist you. So that's the first fee that you will pay at that point, to determine how you want to move forward and is this a right fit for you, and also for us to determine if you are a right fit for the firm and what we do to assist our clients. Thanks so much. I really appreciated all your input along the way as I asked questions about hiring an attorney and maybe why you may be hesitant to do that. I appreciate your input. And I hope that you can take this information to find an attorney who can best assist you. I'm here to help you. Should you want to get in touch with me, go ahead. Go to the link in the profile, and you will see a link there where you can schedule your own appointment, or you can call the office. Scheduling coordinators are available to assist you. The phone line is 24/7. Scheduling coordinators actually do the helping, but the phone lines during off hours are always open, where you can speak with me or speak with the receptionist who answers, and they will be happy to take your information, and the scheduling coordinator will get back to you on the next business day. Remember, when you call the office, this is all confidential. You will be safe. It's not a situation where you have to worry about your information being disclosed or it being used against you, because as an attorney, we must make sure that we protect your confidential information. And if an attorney is not doing that for you, or is threatening you, or is telling you they're not obligated to keep your information confidential, then there may be a breach of their professional responsibility. So keep that in mind, that when you come to the consultation, you can disclose your information to me, and that's always best, because then I can give you accurate legal advice about how to move forward. Thanks so much, everyone, for all of your questions. I appreciate it. I will see you tomorrow, where I will talk about another immigration topic. So join me tomorrow. Anywhere, usually around noon, I log on here to answer questions. So look out for me. Have a good one. Thanks, Ricky Flossie. Bye-bye.